All right, welcome in, Steelers fans. Week 8 here on the Noll Road. We got why the Steelers will beat the Packers, plus an amazing player that fixes the Steelers' defense is now available, according to reports. Here we go.
Then to the corner of the end zone. Oh, it's for a touchdown!
Can't thank you enough for hitting play over the next 29 and a half minutes. We're going to talk all things Steelers. I'm Gavin Dawson, 25-year sports radio veteran, along with my main man, the all-academic SEC lineman at Kentucky, New Bear Lesniewski. How the hell are you, bro?
Well, I'm watching the end of this Vandy Mizzou, and Vandy is unlike any other time except for like the outset of their program history, legit top 10 program. Steelers brass rumored to be in Nashville with them coming through, and there are a whole bunch of nasty #anchor down dudes that we might want to see and may very well see in Pittsburgh. I'm excited to just tease a little bit of the draft stuff I know you want to get into with that coming here for 26.
Yeah, we're going to crush the draft for you. We'll have mock drafts. We'll have scouting reports on all your top Steelers targets here. But, man, we got week 8 to talk about, and it is the weekend. Cold beer's coming up. If you need a cold beer, just request it in the comments. Also, please subscribe if you haven't yet. We'd love that. We go a long form 4 times a week. And if you already have subscribed, hitting that like button is the best thing you can do for us. It helps us get distributed better across YouTube. Okay, new trade target, man. This is what they need to do. Every contender in the league wants to add Quinnen Williams, and the report are that he's now available, or at least the Jets are listening. And one report says Connor Hughes of SNY said that he might be available for a second-round pick. I believe strongly the Steelers need to jump at this, and if other teams are offering it too, go ahead, offer the one. Quinnen Williams has a year and a half left on his contract at $24 million. He's smack dab in the middle of his prime at 27 years old, and Keanu Benton sucks as a nose tackle.
I mean, say that last part louder again. For the people in
sucks as a nose tackle.
Well, it's funny because every time he has a splash play, you go, he could actually be a really good nickel dime sub guy. He could be a very solid part of a Super Bowl winning team. He just can't be the guy at the start. And if you're telling me, man, Quinnen Williams, dude, like he's one of those guys. Like guys like him don't fall off turnip trucks. Like all respect to Ndamukong Suh. Excuse me, I just swallowed a frog. You're talking about, 6'3", 300 plus, 4'8", right? I mean, like, there aren't dudes who are built like him, who move like him, who care like him, who want it like him, who've been stuck in football purgatory like him, who would put on the black and gold and make you think about the teams of old.
There's just some guys that are so big, you're like, there's no way a guy like that's that big can move like that. And then so many big guys just aren't as strong as they look. He's like twice as strong as he looks, and he is an absolute tank. So if you look at the game the Steelers just played, if Chase Brown hadn't gone for nearly 15 an attempt in the first half, you probably don't get away from your identity much, from things that you're comfortable doing. And Austin has talked about as much this week. They changed things up significantly and not for the better. And I just feel fundamentally, if you can't stop the run and run the ball, you are dead in the water by the time you get to December. They could now run the ball. This is a good Steelers offense when it comes to running it, and salute to Arthur Smith for that. But 7 weeks in, there's no reason to believe Benton, Queen, and Wilson are really going to get this thing sorted out any more than, hopefully getting out of the absolute cellar of the NFL when it comes to defensive efficiency.
Yeah, can we do one thing real quick just to clean up last Thursday? If we go the rest of the season, if we get into a playoff showdown with insert your least favorite opponent, and they don't play Nick Herbig. I did it. That's the first time all year I said Nick instead of Nate on the first try.
Okay.
And
Still looking for my first.
They don't play Herbig because a dude who's averaging 2.7 yards per carry for the worst run team in the league. This is the 4th year running, all pun intended, goes for 12 and 27 and scares you more than Joe Flacco. Like Mike Tomlin was more scared of Chase Brown than Joe Flacco, and I don't know which one's worse. So just to bury the hatchet on last week, assuming they're going to come out with their hair on fire, kick-ass take names, get right, retract this thing so that we're talking about taking control of the North, hosting a home playoff game, winning multiple playoff games in a wide open conference and league. Like, I guess I have to get over the fact that all it took was 12 and 27 from Chase Brown. So to your point, if you want that to go away, Quinnen Williams is the guy. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, you have quite a few problems defensively. I think Darius Slay.
Literally recording.
You
Get
good?
out. Sorry, I tried to mute myself. Get out.
No, you're good. No, you know what? I think you might be on your laptop microphone. You might be on the internal mic, because when you try to mute it, we're getting all that get out, which I love. We're two hardworking family men that happen to love ball and talking Pittsburgh Steelers here with you. But the point that I wanted to make here.
Wait, do I sound better now? Now I'm on the shore.
Yeah, you do sound a lot
for
better.
Sure on the shore.
Yeah,
you're
coming in crisp.
You talk. I'll be right back.
Yeah. The point that I wanted to make, bro, was that when you cannot stop the run, it can break your defense, and you start doing weird stuff to try to get a handle on the run game, and it just exposes you so much on the back end. And I feel like oftentimes in football, one player is not enough to get things fixed, but Quinnen Williams is definitely the exception to that rule. All right, we got our new bear back. Anything you want to address on that before we move on to specifically, this game, but also some wide receiver rumors?
Sorry, I was out of breath for a minute. What was the last phrase that you just said?
Yeah, I just think if you can't stop the run, it will fundamentally break your defense. You need to have that secured if you have any hope of trying to stop the big plays, because you worrying about the run game is what every offense dreams of for chunk plays.
Yeah, there was a cliche that you threw in there, and whatever it was about, something to the effect, let's just say kitchen sink. This is a kitchen sink type defense, in as much as you're supposed to have everything you need, right? And the kitchen sink, meaning they pick up a Peppers, they pick up a Bentley. There's still more moves to make. There's going to be things they do even after the deadline passes, because dudes are going to get cut. There's different rules, right? There's street free agents. Guys are going to get hurt. Like, this isn't the end of things just because November 4th at 4 p.m. hits. But what I think you and I are saying is this particular thing where when you get a guy whose name belongs in flashing lights and it only costs you a 2, or it's no longer the wide receiver 2 conversation. Like, if that is a moot thing because you believe in what you have in the building, but another guy, a flashing light guy, pops up, a guy who belongs in your uniform, who is a lunch pail, hard hat guy, an Alabama guy who, dude, like, when you go back, I said Ndamukong Suh, but pull up, Gerald McCoy, pull up. There are a handful of dudes, even guys like Haloti Ngata. Now, he's not as big as Ngata, but Quinnen Williams is still plenty of man wherever you line him up across from other dudes. And like, when you look at the combination of size, speed, skill, production, and by the way, that you mentioned at the outset, 1 year, is it 24 or 26 million?
24 mil.
Yeah. So then you have the ability to get into negotiations. You have the ability to have a Cam Hayward succession plan running with the rookie that you hit on out of Oregon. I'm doing Eminem stuff, right? He said he got pissed off because everyone said you couldn't rhyme a worm with orange. And then he starts talking about porridge and what have you. And I figured, since you know that I grew up saying Oregon Trail, and you had to correct me, just like I said Albany on the air when we were calling high school playoff football out there once upon a time. Get this deal done for Quinnen Williams.
He's a top defensive tackle against the run, number 1 ranked, 10th overall. And looking back at the couple of seasons, New Bear, I would say this Steelers defense has never actually been down in, down out good for a while. This has been a big play takeaway defense. Quinnen Williams would take a big step in the direction. I think you got a massive hole right in the middle of your defensive line and linebackers that can't clean it up. So I'm giving a 1 for Quinnen Williams. Leave a comment down below, like the video if you'd give up a 1 for Quinnen Williams, and then tell us why or why not down below, Newbear. You're going there with me, aren't you? Especially considering if it goes well, that pick's in the mid to late 20s or maybe early 30s.
I don't think the Steelers are moving off a 1, but I think the more realistic way is saying 2 plus one of the supplemental 3s or 4s. Like if there's going to probably have to be a sweetener because there's going to be multiple teams that will give up more than willing a 2 for I mean, man, everything about this dude checks out. And when you start talking about checking boxes and putting yourself in the driver's seat to, reshape the future of this team, it's a now and next front office, right? That's why I'm saying they won't give up a 1. But if you go 2 plus sweetener, 2 plus 3 and 4, the Jets love 12 personnel. Send Muth, right? If you're going to bring a 1 into it, I think it would have to be something Madden level insanity where it's Garrett Wilson and Quinnen Williams, and you're sending them Muth 1, 2, 3. Like it would have to be, reset nuclear level stuff for both teams.
I'd definitely crack some cold beers for that one. Okay, I want to move on to wide receivers so we can talk about this game here on the Sunday show on the Noll Road.
Yeah,
take a look at this.
Crazy.
New wide receiver on the market from Diana Rossini, one of the best wide receivers in football last season. I think he was 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. He's been just average this season in Jacksonville, and they're saying maybe he doesn't fit Liam Cohen's scheme perfectly or the locker room. Probably could get him for a 3 is what I am reading. Now we'll have to do the research and the personality stuff and the locker room stuff. I haven't looked into that much at all. I assume this is just, run of the mill wide receiver that's not getting the ball enough and he's asking for it type of diva stuff. But if there's something bigger that I'm unaware of, please do go ahead and fill me in. But I think Brian Thomas, that might be the perfect kind of wide receiver 2 to add. And maybe he, gets hot again and you end up with a star wide receiver on a rookie deal for the next really, 3.5 seasons.
There's a word you and I said we weren't going to go full McAfee and just drop F-bombs in every sentence. There's another word, a 4-letter one that rhymes with bunt that we said we weren't going to say on this show. And that's basically who Liam Cohen is reputed to be. And when you see him going after Robert Saleh in postgame and then backing away, doing fadeaway trash talk, he is very acute. We had him in Kentucky twice. He had a lot of things to say about a lot of people. And when he is right, he's one of the best minds in the game. And if you're not on his side or if you become not one of his guys, he's going to do everything he can to marginalize your name. So Brian Thomas has a drops problem. He's leading the league in drops. He also has a Ricky Waters, for who, alligator arms level issue. And he's literally not putting his body on the line because I don't know if any quarterback in the league throws more hospital balls than Trevor Lawrence. And you're talking about Travis Hunter, and you're talking about a new regime, and you're talking about a guy who he wasn't just the best rookie. You're talking about 4th in Rookie of the Year. This guy was one of the best receivers in the league last year, and for rookies for sure in NFL history. And he is another part of the reason why LSU is wide receiver U. If you can get him for a 3, and that part of it is true, I don't even care what any of the other stuff is, because it hasn't risen to the level of the blotter to the point where he's a dude who's in trouble with the law or who's run afoul of the rules of society. If he's just, Jacksonville is kind of a cesspool when it comes to culture, right? Every time they get good, we celebrate them from the expansion years with Brunell on through the hard-nosed stuff with Coughlin. But whatever it is that they do, Urban Meyer probably being the best example of it. But they have been fined. They have been penalized. They have had dudes' careers get ended before they even start. And I'm not just talking about players, right? Go back up through management, go back up through coaches. Every level of this organization is one of the more fascinating ones in the league. This player, one of the best from coast to coast. So If it's a situation where it changes scenery, puts a dude who can't catch a cold on some days, and more importantly, is making business decisions in the red zone, and you think you can fix him, and you think he can take you to the SBLX, go get this guy.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns by accident. I would say it's a scheme issue.
Well, remember, that was Mac Jones, too, because Trevor Lawrence was hurt.
Okay, all
that
right.
was with Mac Jones.
I like it. You get him with Aaron Rodgers. I think that could be the final piece of the offense. But if I have to pick one side of the ball to add a player to right now, it's not offense. I think with Austin and the tight ends cooking and Roman Wilson coming along, the need's much greater on defense.
I know they're I almost said compensatory picks are probably going to get marginalized because of the injuries to Najee, the injuries to or the benchings of Russ, and there's a whole bunch of stuff where they might not have 3 3s or 3 4s, and some of those compensatories might fall into later in the draft in like pick swap territory. But I mean, if the rumors are true and Brian Thomas is gettable for a 3 and Quinnen Williams is gettable for a 2, I would legitimately put my 2 and all my 3s in play, and I would late round pick swap, like whatever it is you want to do. I don't care if you end up with half of the 7th round because you have to go 6s and 7s and give up 2s and 3s to get talent that has produced at the level of a Quinnen Williams and a Brian Thomas. And obviously Brian Thomas, has much less NFL snaps, games played, tape, and some of it more recently is terrifying. But you're talking about game-changing guys that are known entities versus going into the draft. And let's not forget, Roman Wilson was a 3rd-round pick, and I'm over here screaming for the hashtag.
Yeah, and then you add to it that Thomas is on a rookie contract. That it's almost too good to be true, and better late than never here with about 10 days to go till the trade deadline. Couple of other wide receiver notes. Jeremy Fowler says Pittsburgh scouring the earth for wide receiver help. They're looking around Las Vegas. Myers is an option. Teams are calling about Jalen Waddle, but the Dolphins haven't showed they want to do anything yet. But there could be a receiver move to the deadline, and Pittsburgh could be involved in those conversations. Just more of the same there. But then Tony Pauline, who is one of those insiders that can maybe exaggerate, maybe throw stuff on the wall. He's like a Peter Vesey of the NFL, just without the name. Says the Steelers have an offer standing on the table right now for Jacoby Myers already. So I know we've talked a lot about Myers, and in a lot of ways, that's the ideal player to acquire as your wide receiver number 2 if you're willing to pay him.
I mean, but think about this: you want Jacoby Myers for a 4, which is the number that has mostly, been tied to him, or do you want Brian Thomas for a 3? I mean,
I think I want Myers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You would just take the clear 2 professional wide receiver, even though he wants to be paid like a 1 and demanded a trade.
You got DK. I don't know if you can make Thomas happy.
Okay, that's fair, and that's fine. I'm just talking about talent and the difference between a 3 and a 4.
You're right about that. You're right. It's more talent with Thomas by far. More upside with Thomas by far, but you're not getting the drops. You're getting a professional. I think Myers plus Aaron Rodgers would be gold.
Yeah, and what you're talking about too, though, is does he have the ability to class up into wide receiver 1, right? If DK were to go down even just for a few weeks with a little bit of a rolled ankle, it's a fascinating thing right now. I actually clapped a little bit. I picked up not Fowler directly, but I believe it was Steelers. Was it Steelers Nation or Steelers Wire? But I basically just said, instead of scouring, like, how about we put that Brillo pad on it? It's literally Kanye cray to me that you won't just play Roman Wilson and find out, or you're just going to goof around and do nothing, right? Because there's 3 true outcomes. Make a trade, and it's whatever level of splash, you deem it, like we just talked about between Brian Thomas Jr. versus Jacoby Myers, or you play Roman Wilson, or you do nothing, right? Those are basically the 3 things we're about to find out in the next handful of days. And it seems like all these teams outside of the mid-round and late-round pick swaps, everyone's waiting for that first domino to fall. And we've seen, Ray Rocks and company in our comments, talking about, Khan being late to the game. And, if the Steelers are calling on about making offers to Jacoby Myers, Jalen Waddle, Ridley, by the way, that was another name that popped up again, and that hamstring injury might be about as real as Trevon Diggs' concussion in Dallas. But be interesting to see if someone beats him a punch. Like, what does it take to go get Ridley? What does it take to go get Brian Thomas, to go get Jacoby Myers or any of these guys? And if someone gets them and the Steelers don't, I just don't want to be sitting here going, damn, man, they got Jacoby Myers for a 4, and we're still asking questions about Roman Wilson.
Yeah. I think you want to put yourself in a situation where you have more than enough options, like a situation where it's an embarrassment of riches, I think. And we're just not quite there yet. Like it's enough offense to do it if your defense is elite. But now that we know that the defense probably isn't going to be elite, you got to fix that, and hell, everything you can add to the offense that much better. Okay, why I'm confident in Steelers victory against the Packers on Sunday. Home game is worth something. Let's just start with that. Green Bay is 1-1-1 away from Lambeau, so I think that is real. And there's a number of things about the Packers defense that I just don't think is real. And as the season plays on, they will be exposed. I don't think their corners are that good. I think they're top 5 in yards per rush allowed, but I don't believe that their run defense is that good as the stats say it is. And they got obviously Jordan Love, but they got an injury with Reed to their leading receiver from last year. I think he went out week 1 or week 2, and he's not going to be back for a while. I know they're activating Christian Watson this week, but there's probably a rust there, and he's just a big play, a wide receiver. He's not a down in, down out type of possession guy. So when the Packers got Micah Parsons, I thought there was a chance they would be the best team in the NFC, but they have really failed to live up to that for me.
Well, it's easy for me to hate them. I mean, I grew up, my whole family's from Chicagoland, and my first jersey, one of the first articles I ever got published in sports journalism was talking about, being a Rex Grossman apologist, but my first jersey actually being Favre's, because I thought his name was spelled backwards, and as a Lesniewski, I had a little bond with Favre. And I just loved the way that he played so much that even though you hate Green Bay, how can you not love watching Brett Favre? Hell, he might throw the ball to the other team 3 or 4 times, and then the 5th one that he throws to his guys is the decider with no time on the clock, with his helmet coming off and a dip in. So that whole thing has always been fascinating in terms of like being honest as a fan, as a commentator, writing about the team, talking about the team. And what's interesting about this year with these Packers is they've really become a week-to-week outfit where injuries and inconsistency have put them in a place where you can look at them and say, wow, damn, yeah, that's the best team in the NFC. And they lost to the Cleveland Browns. So it's a week-to-week thing with this team. And what any variance tells you historically is that when Mike Tomlin, for all his warts, all the things that he leaves wanting, and all the things that we've got in his ass about the last few weeks, he's typically pretty damn good about righting the ship after a week after they get their teeth kicked in.
Yeah, and coming off like a mini bye as well. Coming off Thursday Night Football, Tomlin's just about as good as he is coming off of a full bye week. I think it's 14-5 coming off Thursday Night Football in his career. And let's just talk about what Green Bay has done. When they went out and beat the Lions week 1, that defense looked dominant. They allowed just 13 points. Then they beat Washington with Jaden Daniels hurt. They lose to Cleveland. They tie with the Cowboys. They just couldn't get a handle defensively on what the Cowboys were doing, and that was without CeeDee Lamb. Then, they beat the Bengals 27-18, but they almost lost to Arizona. They were down, 20-13 going into the fourth quarter in that game to Arizona. So I feel like a lot of people wanted to crown the Packers, but they're not quite as good as what maybe you thought they'd be. And if you can stop their pass rush, that's what worked for the Cowboys. The ball was out quickly. Micah met Dak Prescott at midfield after that game and said, man, the timing of this offense, if you'd have hung onto that ball for a quarter second more, a handful of times, I was on your ass. And the Cowboys offensive line did not play well in that game. So I say all that to say, I really feel like since the Minnesota game, the Steelers have had a good understanding of how to get this ball out quickly, how to run the ball create balance. And Aaron Rodgers, after saying we're waiting for cover 3 or cover 1, you know, I think against a variety of coverages they've had success, including you know, a couple of times in the fourth quarter against the Bengals.
Aaron Rodgers was effusive in his praise this week about this defense in terms of how it's not just Micah. You got Rashawn Gary, right? You got a handful of dudes who can really go. And I was
Cooper.
I wanted the Steelers to take Edger and Cooper. Like when we were rebuilding that draft, you know, I was super high on him coming out, and I love that the way he plays. And when you look at the construction of this defense and the way it was designed, you know, Quay Walker and guys to really get after it, right? Where, you know, you expect Love and all these wide receivers and all these fun plays and schemes and big balls and efficiency, and then they're just going to go hunt QBs. So here's the thing, man. You remember when we were talking all summer when Micah was on his way out of Dallas, I wanted Lucas Van Ness for the Cowboys. I wanted him to be part of, and as happy as I was that they got Kenny Clark, I was a huge Van Ness guy. He's not supposed to play. And the other one, Devontae Wyatt, is in Reading still, and he's at least questionable. So, you know, you start getting into this thing and you go, okay, well, this might come down to who's up and who's not, meaning, are we talking about Van Ness and Wyatt? Or are we talking about Zach Frazier? Because if Frazier's up and he's good, or if he's not up and his backup is able to step up because some of the guys in all white aren't available, like that battle in the trenches gets real interesting real quick.
It does. And if you can win that battle of the trenches, I think these corners can be had. They have good stats because of the pass rush. And you mentioned Van Ness, and I mean, they got guys. They'll bring in 2 waves on you, and it wouldn't be a big surprise to see Kingsley Enagbare, you know, making plays off the edge. But Keyshawn Nixon, Nate Hobbs, they're getting outproduced by Carrington Valentine in the secondary. I you know, and when the Cowboys played the Packers earlier, it was obvious that if you can give any kind of protection. So what I'm thinking is, you know, quick game, play action, run the ball. And, you know, Aaron Rodgers is the ultimate cheat code when it comes to deciphering what the opposition is trying to do. I just think this sets up really well for you to mitigate their best weapon, which is really their edge. And I don't know how you feel about the offense. We should talk about this Packers offense before we wrap this thing up. I mean, Jordan Love just has not followed through on that 2023 season where it looked like he might be on an MVP type of trajectory. I just consider him like maybe a borderline top 12 or top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys after you get past that first group that is probably the reason, and by that I mean those top 4 or 5 that are pretty much undisputed, which includes Dak right now. Because I know everyone wants to talk about, you know, Lamar, Josh, Mahomes, Burrow, you know, the latter 2 being hurt, and you start talking about a guy with the talent of Love, and the thing that's so challenging with him is he's probably the biggest reason for the week-to-week variance of this team looking Super Bowl ready, or also looking like they can lose and did lose and do lose consistently to teams like the Cleveland Browns, who they have no business losing to. And when you think about how ugly that game was, and you think about him holding the ball, trying to make plays, taking one for the team, you know, extending things, and then coming within, you know, just so close to the, you know, that one that breaks everything open. It's like, man, at a certain time, you're just waiting for him to take that next step where he is making that play before something bad happens, right? And you look at him with all the tools, and you look at him with all the pluses that he has when he's right, and then you go, okay, well, what is the thing that keeps him from being consistent? And the Pittsburgh Steelers have everything that you need to do so, because if you force him to move, if you force him to hold the ball, he will throw the ball to the other team.
Yeah, he will. Okay, so then the other thing offensively that they're going to bring to the table that, you know, will be a decisive factor is their ability to break tackles, and particularly Josh Jacobs, to a lesser extent Tucker Kraft. But if they are not going for big plays down the field, the other way they could absolutely destroy you is getting the screen game going, getting off in the flats, isolating your corners on the outside, and either one of those guys is going to eat your corners for lunch when it comes to tackling. Like, you're going to need to get multiple guys to the ball and wrap up this week, or it could be one of those frustrating deals where you think you got them stopped on a third down. Next thing you know, they're lunging over the yellow line for yet another first down that you thought you had contained.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time early on where the Steelers were the worst tackling team. I think they're still top 4 and fighting to get on the medal stand in terms of misses. And if you miss Josh Jacobs, he will make you pay. For me, turn that thing around and go the other way. If this defense is able to live up to their statistical billing and keep Warren and company under wraps, they got to stay stubborn with the run up front, even if it's only a 3.5, yard per carry type of game, because everything that comes off of that and everything that you do, wear and tear, play action, like everything that goes into, even if you don't have a real pretty night running the football, like look at what happened last week. If we are to believe Mike Tomlin, Chase Brown with a run of 12 and a run of 27 scared the bejesus out of them, and now Nick Herbig can't play. So be stubborn, and like I talk about it all the time, right? On purpose, with purpose, for purpose. What does that mean? You got to keep Aaron Rodgers clean. And the first way to do that is to have success running. The second way to do that is when you have those big personnel and those extra tight ends to have the ability to gash people, right, with the guys who are going to be leaking, with the guys who are going to be scud seaming, missiles right up the seam, and especially if you can't run the ball and get them to come out of any two or other shell look that they're going to give you, you have to make them pay with Freiermuth.
Yeah, at least get the over the middle stuff going. And the great thing about running the ball and play action is even when they're crushing your run, they're still leaning forward.
Yeah,
now they're excited about the big play. I'm gonna get a TFL here. I'm gonna go chasing my what are those called, bonuses for statistics, for stats. The Steelers are going to get me halfway to my 10 TFLs for this week. And when that starts to happen, that area behind the linebackers really gets softened up. And I think with how the Steelers have been using their tight ends, that might be the ticket.
And don't forget too, when they moved DK to the slot in Dublin, like that was a reason for him getting loose, not just him moving to the slot, but the fact that they stayed committed to the run, play action off it, and you get guys' eyes, you get guys leaning, and just the manipulation. What you just said, I cannot rubber stamp an exclamation point enough.
All right, let's do this. We got to get out of here. Please subscribe. We'll be back early in the week to react to this one, start getting you ready for week 9, and of course, tracking that NFL trade deadline for New Bear. I'm Dawson. We'll see you next time on the Noll Road.